I am literally dragging myself in doing this video because I'm not feeling well. But anyways, we shall soldier on because we are South Africans. I mean, hello. That's what we do. Anyways, so I have been bombarded with videos, two videos in particular. In fact, it's one video, and then when I was watching this one, it linked with the other one, and then you have two separate videos that I have questions about. I remember when this video came out in 2024, this is Julius Malema, by the way, that I'm talking about. He said something when he was campaigning for the 2024 general elections. And I asked the question, I was like, wait a minute, is there a law in this country that forces you to report what you are actually sharing with your followers for votes? Then, of course, this is South Africa. After all, this is pre-Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, 6th July 2025. So a year before the bombs started dropping from KwaZulu-Natal by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. So what am I talking about? Let's check out this video. I'm sure some of you will remember it. I've been tagged so many times on TikTok with that video, as well as on emails. So hit it.
I know the ecosystem of this country, who does what, where, and how, including those who sell drugs. When I take over, I know which area to go. I will never sell soldiers to Western Cape to go and fetch drugs. There's no single factory in Western Cape that manufacture drugs. Those are the consumers. All drugs are being produced in Gauteng and get distributed outside. That's why you send the soldiers with so much money to go and stop drugs in Western Cape. Till today, they never gave you any drug bust that is big for 2 million rands, nothing.
So one of my teachers, I think it was my English teacher, Miss Bernard, which was my favorite teacher. She always liked dropping these idioms now and again whenever a student would do things that were quite questionable. And she will always say, the devil is in the details. So, of course, we knew nothing about the Big Five or the cartel, even though we suspected that something is definitely in the air in South Africa that is allowing all this nonsense to happen to us. And yet we had a government. Now, as you heard, to me, it sounds like a man that has a lot to say. The devil is in the details. So now in my head, I'm like, come on, I know there's a law that forces Julius Malema to report what he is saying, if indeed it is to the detriment of South Africans alike. Not just a campaign tool or a talking point for his political party to gain votes and take over the country. As you hear him say in the video, if he took over, in fact, he said, when I take over, he was confident that he was going to win the 2024 general elections after even he told foreign nationals, illegal foreign nationals, to find creative ways to come into South Africa. And then he doubled down at some stadium, I can't remember where it was, where he said, as South Africans, we are going to be the slaves of illegal foreigners. I'm paraphrasing here. He says, they are going to be our bosses in South. Okay. Clantis, we are not feeling well, but so then it hit me. Like, no, I tried looking for a law, a piece of law that in my head, I'm thinking, this man just committed a crime. And he admitted to committing a crime, which is called either concealment of the crimes that he just, shared. And also defeating the ends of justice, which is basically concealing crime. And I was like, what law is that? So I started going down the rabbit hole with a massive headache that I haven't had in years. So I was like, no, man, this is definitely a law. So I looked. And then I asked Google what law every South African must report if a crime had been committed or concealed. And then, of course, the AI came back and said, in South Africa, there is no single blanket law requiring every citizen to report any crime they witness. However, mandatory reporting obligations exist for specific serious offenses. I was like, okay. For a minute there, I was like, no, what are you saying? And then AI continues to say that primary legislation governing mandatory reporting for specific crimes is, and I was like, this is the law I was looking for. It's just that I couldn't remember what it was titled. And this is the title: Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act. It's also called PRECA, number 12 of 2004. So what Julius Malema is guilty of, if he had to be taken to court on this video alone, he'll be charged under this law, Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act, 12 of 2004. Now, I was like, wait a minute, but where exactly does he fall under this law? Then I read a little bit more and it says mandatory reporting of corruption and economic crimes, because selling of white powder and having labs and chemists is for economic purposes, right? Not for the country. Not for the country. So let's see where I am looking for. I'm sure I was looking for something here. But anyways, no, let me give you homework so that I didn't feed you everything. It's called Prevention. Okay, wait, let's get to it. Please go read. Sometimes I want my community to go and learn these things themselves rather than hearing them from me. So the law is called, the law is called Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act, 12 of 2004. This piece of law, it forces everybody, doesn't matter who you are in South Africa, to report crimes, to have a clandestine lab that is manufacturing an illegal substance in South Africa. The operative word here is illegal. Illegal. So the obligation fell on Julius Malema to report this knowledge instead of withholding this knowledge and allow the children of this country, because there was a parent that shared a most terrifying story that her 9-year-old shared with her. She shares that her child was walking from school in full school uniform and was approached by a man that looked like a Nigerian, because of course our kids can tell, and offered him something that was wrapped, and he called it a sweetie. And he said, go home, go under your blanket and suck on it. A Nigerian did that to a 9-year-old. And Julius Malema knows where the lab of that product is manufactured. And he's saying nothing. He uses that as a campaign tool. And then I heard that he had a press conference today, and some few things that made me laugh a little bit. He warned against political, more like becoming a populist politician. And I was like, are you talking about yourself? Because populism is what Julius Malema has always been about. The policies of the EFF are populist policies. They are policies that make you feel good and think this is possible. But he will not tell you that these policies failed in Cuba. in Venezuela, and in most recent times, Zimbabwe and Zambia on the African continent. China and Russia decided, we'll turn yellow because being red, 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 it's not going to work in our favor. So they adopted capitalism. But he wants you to adopt Marxism. Have you seen his house in Limpopo? Oh, don't even go to Limpopo. Go to his house here in Gauteng. The cars that he drives, the designer wear that he wears, that is not Marxism. It's not. No, not at all. A true Marxist that I remember growing up was Joe Slovo. Joe Slovo, when he passed away, oh, by the way, he's buried in Soweto in Avalon. And he was buried in a tomato, what you call that thing again? His coffin, the cheap, very, very, I don't know, it's a tomato box. Come on, people. That's what he was put in because he was a true communist. He believed that he needed to be with the poor and be equal with the poor. All right. That's a true Marxist, a true communist, not EFF. Not EFF. Because if you really, really had to look into their lives, track the cars they drive, the suburbs they live in, clothes they wear, grocery stores they buy their groceries, doesn't scream communism. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say is those 7 pillars are populist policies. And I found it quite interesting that he was warning politicians taking the route of populism. Hypocrisy at its best. Hypocrisy. And then I also heard where he says he's not afraid of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. And I was like, hang on a minute, sir, you are not called yet. But we would like you to be there. And we know you are going to lie through your teeth. Probably even try and intimidate Justice Madlanga. He doesn't play games. I'm just letting you know. He doesn't play games. Oh, by the way, and the South Africans that are following the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry will not take it nicely or kindly if you ever tried to manipulate the commission. You're going there to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Oh, I forgot. But other than that, the question I asked back then, did the Hawks visit him after that or no? And if the Hawks did not visit him, on what grounds? Yet we got this law. Or if it's not, then SIU or some legal authority, they did nothing. So it's okay that he has that knowledge. And at the same time, the children of this country, they are turned into zombies. Their futures are being destroyed. And yet we have a leader that knows these clandestine labs. So now coming to Nkandla on the 6th of July, and he makes some very damning accusations. And now when you take those accusations and you link it to what Julius Malema is saying, and also Kenny Gunene, and he says, I'm not a member of the cartel. Maybe you're not a member of the cartel, but you knew some people in the cartel, and you still kept quiet. Imagine you, a president of the Republic of South Africa. For some reason, suddenly Colombia just popped in my head. Mexico popped in my head. Venezuela popped in my head. All these South American countries where they actually plant the plants that creates white powder. Oh, baby, better. We dodged the bullet, fellow South Africans. Maybe we even dodged a missile. Who knows? Then the second video is Advocate Defu. Advocate Defu was on that show, McG, and he made some damning accusations against a former Gauteng police commissioner. And I was like, wait a minute, this comes back to this very piece of law, Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act 12 of 2004, but not on Advocate Defu, on the Provincial Police Commissioner. And allegedly, he's involved. Then I was like, yeah, with a person with such power, you are the door, if not the corridor, for nefarious characters like drug dealers, traffickers, you name them. They will go to you. Because we had this situation before with the National Police Commissioner, Jackie Silebi. Remember? Yeah. So what would prevent a provincial commissioner from engaging in such unfortunate relationships? And I thought, wow, Advocate Defu, you could get sued for that. It's been over a year since this accusation. Not once have I heard that Advocate Defu was served with summons or even a letter of demand to withdraw those accusations from the former provincial commissioner of the police. Could it be true? Because listen, if I'm innocent of this, I would have dragged Advocate Defu screaming and kicking to court to prove all these accusations. But maybe I missed it. I don't know. Maybe I missed it. But I don't know. Please, in the comment section, remind me, were any summons served to Advocate Defu? Because Advocate Defu exposed that. And he is just a person on the street. And I think he was hoping that the Hawks would do something about this accusation, considering that he was accusing somebody that held such a powerful position in the police provincially, both intelligence, organized crime, combating of crime, and all of that stuff. Was there any lawsuits that you remember? Because I don't. Or maybe he was, so I don't know. Can somebody help me out here? And I think with Advocate Defu, he might withhold this particular piece of law as his defense in court by saying, well, I withheld this information because I was waiting for the former provincial commissioner of the police to take me to this process so that I can reveal this evidence. Because at the same time, you must remember, it was done before. Was it after Ntantla Mkhwanazi? I think it was little after Ntantla Mkhwanazi, if not little before Ntantla Mkhwanazi. So if he'd done it before Ntantla Mkhwanazi, of course, it was going to find itself in Sergeant Nkosi's shed in the backyard, where all these other 12 dockets were found during his house raid, if you know what I mean. South African Sibolile. We are rotten to the core. But I'm glad that we are fixing our beautiful country. I do foresee a South Africa where things are done in the straight and narrow, and there will be people breathing onto other people. Remember back in the day? Yeah, back in the day. I don't know if this was uniform, but remember at school, we would have inspectors. Remember inspectors? They would come at random times. Sometimes they would announce themselves and say, okay, on this particular day we're coming, and then all the teachers made sure, even though you came from a school that was well disciplined, the kids are disciplined, but the teachers made sure that we were on our good behavior. And then the inspector would come randomly out of the blue and would stand up and wait for the inspector to greet us and then invite us to sit down. And then they go right at the back of the class. They would sit there while our teacher did what our teachers usually did. They will be writing onto something. And sometimes we even forget they are there. Remember those? South Africa will be like that someday. Because having inspectors is important to make sure that things are run smoothly. My last point to prove what I'm saying, that we need this, is the Malaji of Tshwane, who was a witness in the Matlang Commission of Inquiry yesterday. Do you see why we need inspectors? To make sure that Malaji, with all that responsibility, when he gets tender bids, he evaluates the companies that are tendering and then comes to the best company to use for the city of Tshwane so that the city of Tshwane is run smoothly. But the same tender company gets monitored by an external body to make sure that they deliver. And secondly, the likes of Malaji, they did not choose this particular company in a nefarious way. You know, like they get a kickback type of situation. We're gonna get to, excuse me, we are gonna get to that point as South Africa, I believe, because these are the systems that we need to put in place. Police the police type of situation, and rotate them so that they don't get comfortable. Anyways, I don't know. What are your thoughts, fellow South Africans? I'm just going to treat myself. If you don't see a video from me today, just know that, yeah, my body said, let's chillax, bro. Let's chillax. So I shall chill. Hopefully, I'll be better by the end of the weekend. Thank you all so much for your support. I highly appreciate you guys. And thank you for the wonderful comments. I read them, even though hey, have you ever said, like, laying on your back and looking at your phone and then you fall asleep and then it hits you on your mouth? It happened to me several times. My upper lip inside, it has sore because my phone kept hitting me because I was falling asleep because of medication. Anyways, guys, thank you. I love y'all. And I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.